All right, then this morning we're going to be looking and perhaps trying to understand the partnership that exists between LASPA and, of course, the local governments that we have in Lagos. Let me bring in my guest who's right here. Mrs. Adebisi Adelabu is General Manager of Lagos State Parking Authority, as she's making her entry once again. Madam, nice to have you back in the studios. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Great. So this morning we're going to be exploring in detail, the partnership that exists between LASPA and of course the local government. Let's start first by exploring the relationship that you have. What kind of relationship do you guys have?
Thank you. So the local governments from inception has been very supportive. And in Lagos, we have what we call the Conference 57, which is like the Association of Local Governments and LCDAs, headed by Honorable Kolade Alabi, Chairman Bariga LCDA.
Okay.
And under his leadership, we've been able to forge a fantastic collaboration. Indeed, before we started, we sat down and reached an agreement with them. Since then, the 57 have all come on board and they've signed this particular agreement because we understand that fundamentally, under the Constitution, it's their responsibility. But Lagos being a progressive state, and of course, if you look at the likes of the land use charge, LASA, felt like it was important to be able to tackle all the parking issues and bring everything together as one. So a holistic solution across the 57. So what we did was come in partnership with them so that we can drive the parking management agenda and in turn the traffic management agenda forward.
Right. So some will say maybe this parking matter is too big or too large for LASPA to handle. That's perhaps the reason why you are going for this kind of collaboration. No.
But, we follow the law. We understand that this is their responsibility and it is better for us to work with them as opposed to at opposite ends. But what we're doing also is, as we grow, I always say we're a new agency. We're spreading across Lagos, and so we're opening area offices in local governments.
Oh, so your presence is in those local governments?
We're about to. Okay. So what we're starting with, I believe, Ekpe, Surulere, we're opening, so there's no space in Etiosa 1, but we're opening one in Etiosa as well this year.
Okay.
So we have about 4 planned for the works this year in each local government where we're starting the on-street parking scheme from. And the idea is that eventually we'll roll out across Lagos because we understand that it's a partnership. We're also going to be in Yaba, very important. The chairman there has also been supportive. So we're spreading across Lagos, but in bits, and then eventually we'll go right through the state.
All right, we'll talk about the holistic plan for all of this, but in terms of the agreement, what does the agreement say? I mean, between you and the local government?
It's just a simple document to say we're taking over this function. We still expect their support. Typically, it's been them, and not to think little of them, but some places have handled it better than some. And in some local governments, it's a major revenue earner for them. So for them to even trust us enough to say, okay, we'll give you this responsibility, just shows that, Lagos is working as a team. And so having said that, they of course expect certain things in return. And so when it comes to things like revenue, yes, the local governments will they do get a share of the revenue because we're working on their behalf. Technically, they are landlords.
Okay, so I'm curious, but at the time you held this meeting, because like you said now, it's a major revenue earner for some of those local governments.
Yes.
But by the time you held this meeting, weren't they scared that you're taking over their own function?
I think there's always a bit of hesitation with change. Change, a lot of people, we don't like change. But what happens is you begin to show them the benefits of change and how progressive it can be, not just for them, but for all of us, those in government and those outside government. What we try to do, and look, even if it's not parking, when you take over a responsibility, what you want to make sure is that there's accountability, there's transparency. Your ethics are there, and you're increasing, I suppose you're upping your game on what other people have done.
Okay.
So that's what we've tried to do for them.
All right. Yeah. So now they see it as more or less like something that would also bring gains to them as well.
Absolutely. I would like to think that's what they
Okay. So let's talk about the financial arrangements now. So it's a revenue sharing kind of model?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, again, it's the same thing with LASPA land use charge. Lagos, it's not new to Lagos, and Lagos has done this very well, that other states have come to copy from Lagos, because what you want is the local government and the state exco or the state government to be to have a synergy, because things work better that way. It's effective that way. And so occasionally maybe we have to go to any meetings with them. We have to speak to their leadership. There's always that camaraderie to say, we understand what you're trying to do. We understand the vision. Where can we come in? What do you need us to support you so that we can drive this agenda forward?
So in driving this forward now, so who provides the infrastructure? Is it you or the local government?
No, the state through us.
Oh, the state does that through. So
Absolutely.
You guys, they give you a piece of land. You go there, set up, the framework for this parking, and then what happens? The local government take over?
So that's not how it works. Before we came to be, there were lots of parking places in Lagos.
Okay.
What we try to do now is regulate those spaces. And I've always said, every time I come here, Mr. Oteri, I say, look, before our existence, parking was cowboy country. You could wake up and decide that, because I have that land, even if it's government land, maybe you've looked 2-3 months, 1 year, nobody's here, I'm going to claim the land as my own. I start parking, I collect fees. And we found a lot of those as well. So what we're doing now is saying to the local governments, and some of them have been very supportive, give us the list of those areas that you have. We also do our own homework to look for those places, and then we start to regulate. However, because we are regulators, we are not in the business of building car parks ourselves. We try to encourage the private sector to come in and build, but we offer assistance in terms of government regulations or whatever support you might need, including talking to the banks to say, this is a viable business, we've done the financial modeling, and then can you step in and assist this company over so number of years, because we know that they'll pay back, we've done the maths, and then we take it from there.
All right. Okay then. So which of these local governments, do you already have something that's existing in terms of infrastructure for parking?
So, like I said, we don't bill, but almost all local governments have parking infrastructure, but you have to be particular with the CBDs. So you're talking of like Lagos Island, Iru, Ikoyi, Obalende, Apapa. All these already have established parking structures that they run with. And so what we've done now is gradually we've taken over to say, let's do this, let's have some kind of recourse to the state, while also ensuring that the main objective of parking management is achieved. We're trying to bring in some changes. We encourage them to put CCTV up for accountability. We've recently said to them, you need to put the signboards up to tell you how many spaces you have, because there's no point in me joining a queue to park and then 20 minutes later you tell me the car park is full. You could have just put it up in front and I would have seen it from the beginning. So it's these little things that we're trying to bring in now to help facilitate how they run their facilities.
Right. I know you've said this on this program before, but let's just rewind for those who are just joining us for the very first time. From LASPA's perspective, how many types of parking do we have in Lagos?
So we have your parallel parking. In terms of vehicular parking, but as a structure, what we have is on-street parking. Okay. And then we have off-street parking. Your off-street parking is your setback parking.
Setbacks.
Your on-street parking is when you park on the road. Those are the two fundamental ones we have in Lagos.
Right. And I know you've been talking so much about on-street parking, right?
Yes.
So let's talk about that now.
Okay.
How is that panning out? So far, so good. Are Lagosians keen into best practices for on-street parking?
Well, we're having a lot of questions. We're having people come forward to say they want to actually pay for on-street parking. We've started our media campaign recently. So in the areas we're starting from, so if you look at from Osborne to Kingsway Road, to parts of Azumba, parts of Adetokunbo Ademola, Ogunlano Drive, Randall, Bode Thomas, you see our signs, you see our lampposts, that's what they're called. So we're trying to bring it to the consciousness of people, and so we've had a lot of calls inquiring like what's happening, what's coming up, and we're talking to them. So you find that companies that are already understanding that they are going to be in violation because they don't have enough spaces, they park on the road. They are coming to us to say, can we just pay for 5 spaces if this road is applicable for on-street parking? And we've had to say no a couple of times because we don't want a company to buy out the whole street, which is what a lot of them are trying to do now. But it also, I think, beyond revenue generation, we really have to stress this. Revenue is important, but also the need to make a change. for you to view how you use your vehicles differently. And so even when you start seeing the signboards for payment, you'll realize an astronomical jump from the first, second, third hour to the fourth hour. Okay. Because the idea is we don't want you to park in a spot for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 hours.
So are you saying that for me, if I have a corporate outfit on a particular street and I want to just take over from your signboards, which you just said, I just want to take over the administration of parking for my own people that will be visiting my company, assuming that we have a huge influx that regularly comes in. Are you saying I cannot pay for that for the whole day?
No, you cannot.
Why is that so?
Because it's not fair to the other people. I think, you see, the problem is oftentimes we put sentiment when we make certain kinds of regulations. And Lagos needs to move beyond that. We're a cosmopolitan city of over 27 million people. Clearly, there is no city, and I can say this confidently because we've traveled around, that has enough parking space for its people. The idea that one company will buy out, for instance, Abibu, it's not going to be tolerated. It's not acceptable. You can't buy it out. People need to be able to move conveniently, which will then force the change that we want to see.
So what would be the ideal for me?
So the ideal then becomes people start to think differently. If I have 5 companies on a road, perhaps the time will come in Lagos where those 5 companies will sit and think that actually it might pay us to buy a plot of land somewhere on this road and have a parking facility. And then we don't even need that on-street parking. So the idea is that we force change. Because if we continue like this, it is going to be chaotic for the Lagos of 2040 or 2050 or 2060.
Right.
So we need to start thinking about 10, 20, 30 years down the line and start implementing that legislation now, which is what we're doing.
Let's talk about this local government and explore these partnerships a bit further. I know that the policy is very much on right now, but in terms of cooperation for the development and implementation of this policy, what are you finding out so far so good with these local governments and the LCDAs?
We're finding that change is difficult to embrace because sometimes I meet with the local government chairman from time to time, some of them, and when we talk, you realize that because for their staff, parking was their bread and butter, they're resistant to the change. We've had 1 or 2 occasions where we'd had to take them or report them to their chairman to say, why are you still collecting parking revenue? Why are you still having POSs for parking? Why are you? So we found a few wanting. And in truth, the chairman or their executive know nothing about it.
You mean it?
No, absolutely.
Wow. So what should be the ideal? When those local governments confront people to say, look, you want to park? Let's park you here, and they ask you to pay. What am I supposed to do?
You should call us. That's what you need to do. Because they're not supposed to be asking you for money anymore. So you should call us immediately. I mean, just earlier this year...
But it can't be free.
No, it can't be free.
So who am I supposed to pay to?
So that's where we come in again. In terms of on-street parking, we've said it many times. We're not starting across the state at once. But those places where the local governments had already awarded people to, we expect them to have their permits. So we will have on our database that the local governments, so I'm not starting in Apapa this year, for example.
Okay.
If on-street parking is in Apapa in certain areas, which indeed it is, we expect that those local governments should have given us those lists. Some indeed have given us those lists to say there's on-street parking here, there's a particular company that collects on-street parking here. So we have you on record as collecting, so that when on-street parking gets to that area, we can then call you to say, this is coming. So you either get in line with what we are trying to do, the change we're trying to bring, or we give it to someone else to operate. So that's what is happening at the moment, and you find that local governments, a lot of them have been very cooperative. I have to say that, and we've also enjoyed the cooperation of the Oba of Lagos as well, who has been fantastic. He understands the vision, what we're trying to achieve. So it's definitely coming up, and it's gaining a lot of ground.
Right, Lagos Traffic Radio 96.1 FM. Parking Matters is the program you're listening to right now, and I have Adebisi Adelabu here with me. She's the general manager of LASPA, Lagos State Parking Authority, and this morning we're exploring perhaps trying to understand the dynamics between LASPA and the local governments as relates to parking management in the state. Very, very shortly, I will also allow you to join the conversation as well, and then you can have your say this beautiful Friday morning. If you have any questions that are bugging your minds as relates to the activities of the local government that relates to parking, now you heard it from her. It's a new thing in town, and it's a great collaboration between LASPA and the local governments. All right, back to the roads. I did tell you that there's a lone accident of a loaded 6-tired truck that fell into the drainage, or perhaps got hooked into a drainage at Ajayi Hospital. This is inwards Itumoja. It's occupying 7% of the road, 70% of the road. That's the inner part of Ikorodu this morning. That one is receiving attention from the Central Business District. We did tell you there's an ongoing event by the Lagos State government to mark celebration of International Women's Day 2025. And those that are making their journey towards the Mobolaji Johnson Arena are having it slow from Mekwen State House, all those corridors. As a result of that program, it's a very, very big one indeed. So take note of that as you drive through that corridor. All right. Earlier on, we told you about a breakdown around the Lekki Peninsula corridor. Precisely, it's a Nissan pickup van that broke down. That's around the VFS office in Oteri. But of course, the good news, it has been taken off. So it's a much better drive right now within that corridor. Okay, then. So if you want to join the conversation, you know how to do that. It's on 08099120777. You can send in your messages, and of course 0909153877120. Actually, it's 09153877127. That's the numbers that you can call to express yourself as relates to parking matters. All right, infrastructure development. I know you said it that some local governments already have existing structures, but any plans from LASPA to put in place some new structures this year?
Oh, definitely. We're looking at putting up something on the island, especially around the Ozumba corridor, because we understand that once on-street starts, that's a very challenging area. You have Morio Kola Park, you have Adiola Hopewell, you have Ozumba, you have Sanusi Fafunwa, and there's a shortage of parking. So what we're trying to do is look for space or land and then be able to put something there. And indeed, we've seen interest from a lot of companies saying they would like to partner with us. So we're trying to see what we can do with regards to that by the end of the year. But very quickly, Mr. Oteri, I just wanted to shout out to Mr. Governor, because he's such a great supporter of women and the girl child. And that's, as we celebrate International Women's Day, I feel like we need to mention that. In politics, it's a predominantly male space, indeed in governance as well. So when you have a boss or a leader or a governor that understands that women play a pivotal role in achieving the kind of communities and environment we want for our children, a safe space, a place where it's fundamentally properly regulated for all of us, businesses and personal lives to thrive, I think we should celebrate that. And as much as we celebrate International Women's Day today, we also have to celebrate Mr. Governor.
Wonderful. All right, then. So that's a big statement, really, because this is a time when a whole lot of issues are going down across our country, and we're trying to see how we can still, talk about women who are making their marks and, raising their shoulders high in terms of representation. All right, so let's get back to this. So parking is critically essential. But what do you see, or what do you foresee are some of the challenges for this partnership?
So I will go back to change being difficult, that even after 3 years of existence, some people find it hard to let go of the business as usual mentality. Also to understand that it is for the benefit of everyone. I was having a conversation with a journalist yesterday, and he was challenging me on the fact that why do we feel like even schools or churches or mosques should pay for parking, and that typically the local governments didn't used to collect. And I said to him, that's not true. They did. They just hid it along with all the other bills they would send to you. The problem now is that we've come along and we're trying to regulate, and we've pushed the responsibility back on all those bodies to say, well, when you built these churches or mosques or schools, surely you must have thought of parking. I'm not going to build a cathedral that sits 700 people or a mosque that takes 1,000 people for Jumat and have parking for 50 cars.
It's not proper.
Where is the God in that? You understand? So oftentimes when you throw that back at them, then the conversation tends to take another perspective. But it's God. But in truth, we should be mindful of all commandments and in all religions.
Right.
God says, "Be your neighbor's keeper." That means I need to be mindful of what I'm doing to you or for you.
And some would say all of this should have been, thought about when issuing out planning permits and physical planning authority, all those things.
And very correct. And I will tell you, 96% of the times we have gone after those people that have been reluctant to change. They don't have the right permits. They don't have their TIAs. Their physical planning permits are not full. They're not complete. So we are a country or a state of oftentimes trying to cut corners. And what happens is that eventually when government decides to carry out its responsibility, it becomes a problem because people think it's business as usual forever.
Right. Let's take some calls this morning. 09153877127. I have the General Manager of LASPA here with me, and we'll exploring the partnerships or perhaps the dynamics of the partnerships between LASPA and the local governments. So you have any questions on this, feel free to bring it to her, or any contribution as it relates to this particular subject matter. She's here to respond. I have some questions coming in here for you. This one says, good morning, and TGIF, madam, says, what are the biggest parking challenges in Lagos and how is the government tackling them? John is sending that one in. John, thank you so much. Parking challenges.
Okay, so we find that some of our biggest challenges are in the CBD areas. That's the central business districts.
Okay.
Lagos Island in particular. We also have a VI, we have a Papa. And that's the reason is you've had kingpins running these things since the creation of Lagos State. Fundamentally, we say to people that we want Lagos to thrive. Parking is a legitimate business that you can make money from. It is viable. But what we want to ensure is that you do things the right way. So gone are the days of just saying, well, I can do what I want, I can pay government what I want, or in fact, I don't want to pay government at all. We no longer tolerate that. So you find people are resistant to a lot of these things. But I always say to people, government is not out to put you out of business.
All right.
We want you to thrive. Just make sure that you follow the regulations. And then, of course, there's a clear process to pay government.
All right, that's a good call. Hello there, good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
All right, what's your name?
Yeah, it's B calling from Ogba.
Hey, B, it's been quite a while. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
How are you doing too?
Very good. Go ahead, B.
All right, I just want to say, what are they doing about, what's the agency doing about the issue of double parking in the market? Because it causes a lot of good luck, So what are they doing about that?
Okay, double parking.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much, B.
Thank you, B. Okay, so part of our advocacy program that we're running at the moment is to go to each local government and speak to them. And when we speak to them, we speak to their stakeholders as well. So we speak to the CDAs, the market women, the leaders, the market leaders,
all right,
to say that this is coming. Ensure that your people are compliant.
So you are educating them about...
Absolutely. We had a round of this last year when we went to different CDAs across Lagos, whether we're starting on-street parking there or not. But for this year, we're specifically talking to local governments that this program is starting from. And so we're taking it zone by zone. So
right.
I think we're starting from the mainland first, and then we move to the island.
So which local governments in the mainland?
So Onigbongbo, Ikeja.
Right here in Ikeja?
Yes. Surulere, Ikate, mainland. So we're doing Yaba, we're doing mainland,
right.
We're doing Iru, we're doing Ikoyo Balende, we're doing Etiosa 1, Etiosa 2.
That's on the island?
Yes,
okay.
Those are the places we're starting from.
All right.
And so we're engaging them because we understand it's a real problem.
So is double parking an offense?
It is.
Ah.
It is. And that's why it's really critical to address these things before we start, so that people can say, oh, but we didn't know. Oh, but they didn't tell us. Oh, but they are my customers. Oh, eba wa fi won le. Oh, I beg make una leave them now.
Right.
That will no longer be accepted. Bear in mind that it's a partnership between us and the private sector. And so if they're putting their money to investing all these equipments to make sure that the process is run properly, we as government then need to make sure we do our part in educating the populace to say this is happening. You can't double park It's not allowed.
So how do we identify your people? I mean, how can people know that these are officials from LASPA, this is the right place we are to pay to? Like I said, a lot of times you see people out there, some of them just behaving like, I don't know how to describe them. So they want to park here and say, look, you have to pay money. And then they say, bring 2,000 naira and all of that. I know there are lots of Lagosians listening right now. They would like to pay to the appropriate authority, but they just don't know how.
So when on-street parking starts, you will clearly see the uniforms. The uniforms will also have numbers on them. We will obviously be sharing more information on this program and other programs as we start.
Okay.
So you can actually even verify with their ID numbers. You can send it USSD or WhatsApp, and it will verify that for you.
Oh, good.
So if you want, go and wear fake uniform, because the MOT, we have a lot of those problems. People always dressing, they'll go and print their jackets. We've experienced it before that we've had to arrest a few people because they're collecting parking money. They've gone to print the vests. And I always say to Lagosians, it is your right to ask questions. Can I see your ID? Where is your office? You are not breaking the rule. I'm going to give you an example, Mr. Oteri.
Right.
The other day, some people stopped me at Ojota, and they said I was parked in the wrong place. I said, okay, that's fine, but can I see your ID? So the moment I started asking questions, where are you from? Are you from the local government? Are you from the state? This woman, she's a bit too much. Make we leave and make we go. Ask questions.
Did you know that they are talking to the chief parking officer of the state?
But it could have been anybody else, and they would have probably charged the person 100,000, 50,000, whatever.
Right.
So
there's a
ask
message
questions.
here. This one says, Mrs. Adelabu, what's one major challenge that could significantly improve the situation? Thanks, Ismail. Okay, I think you've spoken a lot about these challenges,
Yes.
right?
Yes, I have. And I think for me personally, it's the mentality of being able to understand that it is for the benefit. Because you see, when people embrace a policy, it makes it easier, as opposed to being resistant. So if you embrace the policy, government has done half its work already. And that's why advocacy is continuous for us, because we want people to understand that it is for the greater good of the whole of Lagos.
All right, this one says, good morning and well done, Victor, for an amazing program. My question for the LASPA GM is, how can the public report parking issues or suggest improvements? Grace is sending this one in from Agege Pen Cinema. Thank you so much, Grace.
Thank you, Grace. It's very important. Please call us at any time. You can email us as well. We check our email. So our phone number is 070-000-LASPA. And the LASPA is 52772. So I'm going to repeat that again. It's 070-000-52772.
It's a toll-free line?
Yes.
Not necessarily. I think so.
Is it toll free?
I think so.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Apparently, it is.
All right.
But then we have traditional numbers, which are 01227-5230, 01227-5230, or 01227-5231.
All right.
You can also email us or check our website. So our email is enquiries@laspa.lg.gov.ng. I'm going to repeat that again. enquiries@laspa.lg.gov.ng.
Okay.
Or you can go to our website, www.laspa.lg.gov.ng.
All right. All right. This one says, Ma, can you break down what local governments handle versus what LASPA oversees? Mr. Gbenro, thank you so much for this one. So in this kind of collaboration, I mean, he's trying to find out really who handles what.
No, so local governments have in essence handed off parking to us. They've handed over to us. So anything parking, they cannot enforce anymore. If there is a situation, maybe there is a major event happening in any local government or whatever, what happens is LASMA is part of it. We're part of the MOT. So under the leadership of the Commissioner, Oshiemi, LASPA, ourselves, VIO, any relevant transport agency will be there. But local governments can no longer enforce. They cannot say, oh, you are parked wrongly, come and pay for this. Or it's no. The partnership is there, the agreement is there, and that speaks to it.
All right.
Yes.
Okay, then. So flash update coming in from the control room says that broken down truck which ran into the drainage at where is this now? Ajayi Hospital, inwards Itumoja, has been taken up. So it's a much better drive for those of you navigating through that corridor. As we gradually wind to the end of the program this morning, let's talk about those local governments again that this partnership is going to be kicking off this year. Talk to me. How many of them?
So I think for the beginning we have about 12 local governments and LCDAs that we're working, between 12 to 15, I can verify, that we're working with. And we're definitely going to be paying visits to each one. Like I said, we already have a very good relationship with the leadership and most of the local governments. So we'll be doing a lot of publicity around our visits there and the stakeholders in those local governments.
Right.
Yes, so they know what's coming.
All right, then. So what's the message now? As we round off the program, what's your message to Lagosians?
Mr. Oteri, my message is always my message, which is work with Lagos State. The policies are to make our lives better. Work with the parking authority. We're there to make your life better. You know, sometimes you'll be surprised the effects of parking, the things we take for granted. And so we ask that when you see us doing our work, support us. Aggression, violence is not the answer. You can ask questions as well so that we work together for a greater Lagos.
Right. And those numbers once again, how they can reach you?
070-000-52772, 01227-5230, 01227-5231. You can reach us on Facebook at LASPA_MOT, and you can reach us on Instagram at LASPA_Lagos, X at LASPA_MOT.
We'll leave it to that for now. It's nice having you in the building. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me as always.
Okay, then. So I've been speaking with the General Manager of the Lagos State Parking Authority, LASPA, and this morning we've been looking at the dynamics in terms